recording stopped.
Sorry about that. It was recording to my computer and I don't think there's enough room for that. So I recorded to the cloud.
Okay. Very good. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:34. I'm Eric Sterling, the chair of the Advisory Commission on Policing. I call the meeting to order Monday, December 11, 2023. I note that we have a quorum. We have Dr. Ekstrand, Dr. Gaster, Mr. Ricks, Ms. Delane, Ms. Daphnis, and myself. We have a couple of guests. We invite our guests to introduce themselves in the chat. We regret that guests won't be given the opportunity to speak during the meeting, but you're welcome to add your thoughts and comments in the chat. The first order is the adoption of the minutes that have been circulated of our November 11 meeting. A very thorough job by Logan Anbinder. Have friends had an opportunity to review the minutes of the Monday, November 13 meeting?
I move acceptance of the minutes subject to any corrections.
It's been moved to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
Now,
Dr. Gaster seconds. Any discussion on the minutes?
are those, is that the set that has the concern that I was supposed to have raised?
I'm not, let's see, I'm trying to think. Logan, do you recall if in the minutes in the discussion there was a discussion regarding that you recorded anything regarding Mr. Rick's comments about injured police officer or deceased police officer? I don't recall that that's in the minutes.
Okay.
I will double check whether that is in the minutes or not, and can make any necessary adjustments before we post it.
Because I just want to make it clear. I could have in discussion. I don't remember making the comment, but if I did, I don't think I would put a name with it if I could have been speaking.
I don't recall a name. I think you referred to, as I recall, to an officer who'd been killed, and
right.
The assumption was that you had misspoken and you were referring to Sergeant Kemp, who had been grievously injured.
Yeah, but that's fine.
It was a very, very minor comment, like made somewhat offhand, that someone had flagged for us. It was not, and you did not use the name.
Yeah, because I mean, I get all kinds of mail and stuff from all over, police reports and stuff. And so I could have been, referring to even something not in Montgomery County. So but again, I'll let the records be corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Thank you very much. And I know that will I'm sure that satisfies the concerned members of the public. The question occurs then on the motion to adopt the minutes. All those in favor, raise your hand or post your hand up on the reaction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Christina, we're waiting your vote. Christina, we're waiting your vote on the minutes. So we have 6 in favor. Those opposed? Those abstaining? They're adopted 6-0. Thank you. And Ms. Branson, welcome this evening. Good to see you.
Thank you. Very sorry. Some things are unpredictable. My dog got out, so we had to track him down.
As a dog owner, I'm sure any of us who are dog owners appreciate the priority of that.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you got it.
Yes, we got.
Very good. The next item was a carryover from our prior meeting regarding youth recruitment to serve on the new advisory commission. Today was, if I recall, the deadline that the county executive had posted 4 applications among for the young adult and the youth member. I don't know what the status of applications has been. I reached out to the student member of the Board of Education who I'd been in touch with earlier. Oh, okay. Susan reports that the application period has been extended for another week until Monday the 18th. So I will then reiterate to the student member this issue. I had brought it up to an editor of one of the high school newspapers, and we should continue our efforts to make sure that as many qualified applicants are located for that. On the letter regarding student service hours, student service learning hours, Susan, was that going to be a letter that you were going to write to the Board of Education, or did you want me to do that?
I've been dealing informally with one of their staffers in order to make sure any person who's in MCPS public schools can earn SSL hours. And they said, yes, the county council is an identified or participating entity. And they gave me the process by which a student would submit those forms to get credit for those hours. So they can do it. We don't have to do anything extra, other than there's some limitations if we do virtual meetings, which I think we abide by. I just have to make sure that's okay. And then we can add that as part of the advertisement. I hadn't been able to get to Beth over on the executive side yet, but I will.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Next item number 4
Can
regarding,
I just make a
sorry.
quick-
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, Christy and then
I have a
Shirley.
question, yeah.
Christy, I saw your hand first.
Yes, on the student learning hours, it's a very simple process, but the other part of it that you can use is the actual posting of opportunities on the website. And that can be done. I think I can't remember the name of the website, but there's a website that students often check so that they can look for opportunities. So there's the getting of the hours, which it doesn't have to be posted in order to get the hours signed off by a council member, but you could use it as a bit of a, recruitment tool by posting the opportunity on that site.
Christy, thanks for the heads up on that. Susan, is that something you can take care of, or do you want me to or take care of it, or Logan? How should we most take advantage of that website?
I can ask the person I've been talking to how to go about doing that. I mean, because that would be great for public forums too.
Yes, yes. Yes, very good. Christy, excellent. Ms. Branson?
Yeah, sorry. Susan said Montgomery County Public Schools. I think the private schools also are required to have SSL hours. And so, is it that once an entity is approved or an activity is approved by MCPS, then the private and parochial schools are also, they're good to go. Because you specifically said public schools, so I just want to be real clear about that.
Thank you, Ms. Branson. Susan, can you check that out as well, what the process is? Because I think that Ms. Branson is correct that it's a statewide learning requirement, and so the private schools have that as a mandate that they have to satisfy, and obviously would be a hassle if we had to go to every private school and get them to approve this, but there may be some standardized or uniform process.
Yeah, because I think once it's approved, it's approved. I mean, whoever needs the hours can get the hours.
Well,
so,
excellent. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Branson. That's important. Can we move on to the next item? So the next item, item number 4, is a carryover. I had brought up some time back that that the county a group called Healthy Montgomery, working with the county government, had a community health needs assessment, which recommended that across all of the various agencies that they participate in sort of health related activities, and that in a couple of areas, substance abuse and wellness, there wasn't a role identified for the county police. And what we, in our discussion, the way we approached it was to decide that we would ask the police department how would they want to participate. And so I shared with everyone late this afternoon a letter addressed to Chief Jones on the subject of 2023 Community Health Needs Assessment. If folks want to take a couple of minutes to review that, the letter is in many respects a revision of what had been circulated earlier to the folks at Healthy Montgomery, asking them why they hadn't, why the police department wasn't included. And essentially, the letter that I've drafted concludes: the Advisory Commission on Policing would like to know the MCPD's view of its roles in the health in all policies follow-up to the community health needs assessment. And the first few paragraphs are simply an explanation of the health in all policies, what its background is, and then sort of noting the obvious role that the MCPD plays in these areas. Any, Ms. Branson, I see your hands up. Did you wish to speak on this?
No, I just didn't put my hand down from the last time. Sorry about that.
No problem. Are there questions from anyone regarding the letter addressed to Chief Jones dated today regarding community health needs assessment? Would anyone like to make a motion regarding this letter?
Yeah, I move that we send the letter to Chief Jones.
Is there a second?
I would second that. Sorry.
Lori, thank you very much. Is there further discussion then of the letter?
Well, again, I haven't had a chance to read through the letter. Could you just give us some highlights or whatever?
Or
Yes.
tell us when did you send it around, just to make sure that I'm pulling it up?
Yes, it would have been sent this afternoon, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It was late today.
Thank you.
Mr. Ricks, the letter notes that on October 3rd, 2023, there was a briefing to the county council regarding health. And that in that update, it mentioned the community health needs assessment by Healthy Montgomery. And that they recommended a follow-up called Health in All Policies, described as a collaborative approach that integrates and articulates health considerations into policy making across sectors to improve the health of all communities. And for each of the criteria that are in that follow-up, relevant county agencies are identified. For the criteria of access to behavioral health and substance use disorder services, there was not a mention of MCPD. And in the one dealing with wellness that included pedestrian safety, again, there was no mention of MCPD. So the next paragraph says that MCD plays a critical role in the county in the provision of behavioral health services, and how it chooses to use its authorities has profound effects on the lives of people with substance use disorders. And Then in the next paragraph, it notes pedestrian safety. It says that the Department of Transportation plays a major role in design and construction of sidewalks, crosswalks, and intersections, but certainly traffic enforcement by the police is a critical component of pedestrian safety. And the letter concludes by asking to note MCPD's view of its roles in the health in all policies follow-up to the community health needs assessment. That's the sum and substance of the letter.
And so we're asking,
Chief Jones,
uh,
his view of the role of the MCPD in participating with the other county agencies in these areas that seem to be relevant to the work of the MCPD. Christy, I see your hand.
Yes, I concur with the letter. I just wanted to make a very short suggested edit, if that's okay.
Absolutely. This is the time.
In the paragraph around pedestrian safety, the sentence that says, but certainly traffic enforcement by the police is a critical component. Could we say, but certainly traffic enforcement by the police, parentheses, either through patrol officers or automated means, end parenthesis, is a critical component.
I'm comfortable with that. Quick show of hands, people
And
comfortable?
Can I say one, I'm sorry,
Okay.
one
Sure, of
last
course.
thing,
Yes,
after that, and comma, as well as, school, safety patrol, or school crossing, the
Right,
school's crossing
right.
guard program,
okay.
which
School-
is not really enforcement,
Right, but it is a police department function.
yes. And then I would say are critical components instead of is a critical.
Of course, yes. Excellent suggestions as always.
uh,
Quick, Mr. Ricks.
yeah, again, I'm just trying to get focus in my mind as to why the police department would not be one of the critical. Why are we questioning whether they?
We aren't. We're saying certainly they're a critical component. We're not questioning at all. What
Okay.
we're questioning,
They weren't included. They were not
They-
included as named agencies, right?
exactly. In other words, in this paper on, that talks about all these programs, the police are not mentioned. It's not us who are questioning their role. It's why, we're asking the police in effect, can you engage in this role? Can you make sure that you're a part of this?
Okay, I'm all right. Okay.
And so we're doing it in the way of simply asking, what are your views of the roles? We're not telling him he has to take a role or what that role needs to be, but to ask again, essentially what we're doing is providing a heads up. Is it possible that because you're not a health agency, or that somehow somebody didn't think to contact the police, and it's our expectation that they should be a part of this. So with the friendly amendment, excellent job. I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor, as amended, please raise hands. And I see Ms. Branson. Christina, we're waiting for your hand. It's got 6 yes. I'm sorry, we have. All those opposed? Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. 6:53, we are on schedule. Item 5 is our letter to the council regarding Bill 33-23, voluntary registry for emergency 911 calls. And so this is a letter that is addressed to the chair of the council, the president of the council, Andrew Friedson. And it's very short, so I'll read it. since Mr. Ricks, you may not have it. So, dear President Friedson, the Advisory Commission on Policing, ACP, has discussed Bill 3323. The ACP is supportive of the spirit and intent of the bill, but it is concerned that this program be in complete compliance with applicable federal, state, and local privacy laws, and that the information is fully and appropriately safeguarded. We recommend that the County Council, before voting on the bill, obtain a thorough review by the county attorney to assure that the legislation proposed creating voluntary registry and the use of the information provided to it be in compliance with all applicable privacy laws. Thank you very much, Eric Sterling. Is there a motion regarding the letter?
I motion we approve the letter.
That was Ms. Daphnis, and is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion of the letter. I don't see any hands. Anybody wish to speak to the letter? The question then occurs on the adoption of the letter to send to President Friedson. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ms. Delane, we're willing to take your vote. All those opposed, raise your hand. Anybody who wants to abstain? The motion carries 6-0. Thank you, friends. Next is item 7 are traffic citation fines. And in that context, we were going to send 3 different letters. The first letter is a letter addressed to Brooke E. Learman, the Comptroller of Maryland. This is similar to a letter that we sent before. The key operative, I'll read the key language, is that the Montgomery County Advisory Commission on Policing, along with other police policy review efforts in the county, has been working on issues regarding traffic enforcement. We have been informed that the revenue from traffic citations issued by the Montgomery County Police Department and presumably other police departments in the state goes to the state of Maryland through the state court system. New paragraph. The state annually provides critically important financial support to the local governments. Is any portion of the state's payments to counties computed on the basis of any kind of accounting or formula that considers the revenue the state receives from traffic-related fines generated by enforcement in that county? If so, the Advisory Commission on Policing would greatly appreciate it if you could please provide the formula used to determine the allocation of fine revenue transferred to the county. If so, please provide an itemization of the sums from traffic-related fines that have been returned to Montgomery County for the 3 most recent years available, and if possible, the total amount of traffic-related fine revenue received by the state from enforcement in Montgomery County for the same time periods. Thank you very much for assisting us in gathering this information. Ms. Daphnis.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I'm not sure if you all are aware of this, but there are 2 Montgomery County bills, MC 6-24 and MC 15-24 that are being proposed by Delegate Moon and Delegate Solomon in this next upcoming session that would require some certain distribution of both school bus fines as well as other speed monitoring and automated enforcement fines back into making infrastructure improvements or pedestrian safety and other types of specific improvements in the areas where they're collected. So I just wasn't sure if everyone was aware of that. It doesn't necessarily change the course, I think, on these letters, but it may change the ultimate course over time.
Thank you. That's very interesting. That's very useful background. And I think you're correct that it probably does not change the pertinence of the particular letter, but it obviously does create the potential for incentives for a local government to encourage police officers to make. Well, so the speed, I guess the speed, Christy, was the automated speed. Was it automated speed enforcement or was it patrol officer as well speed enforcement? Do you know?
I believe it's limited to automated enforcement.
Okay, okay. So that would not, because of the way it's structured, and I'm not surprised that it's structured that way, given Delegate Moon's concerns about these kinds of issues and incentives for law enforcement. As you've described it, this would not change presumably the behavior of patrol officers one way or another, or encouragement by their higher ups to change their behavior, because this would influence funds returned to the county.
Right, right. Both of these were, I think both of these were limited to the automated enforcement pieces. It would just change how funds from those automated enforcement things were allocated.
Thank you. Dr. Ekstrand.
I was just wondering if, at least for that last sentence about asking them for the total amount of traffic-related fine revenue received by the state from Montgomery County, we're asking if possible, could they give it to us? And, you know, I sort of can't understand why they wouldn't have that information. So I'm wondering if we add, if it's not feasible to provide this information, why is it? You know, if this is not collected, why isn't it collected? It's probably not that important because we'll be receiving at least what they have. And, you know, it's hard for me to believe that they can't provide that information. So let me let that go. I think that we're getting too complicated.
I don't think you should let that go. I think that's a really good point, because if they write us back and say, oh, well, you know, we can't do that, then at least we've asked the next question already. Okay,
Why?
if you can't do it, why can't you do it?
Mhm.
So I, you know,
Mhm.
hopefully that will be a throwaway question, but
Well, yeah,
it might be a very relevant question, and
Yeah.
it will save us the time of writing a second letter. So
Okay.
so I think that's great.
Well, maybe we can say if these data are not available, please explain why. And that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'll modify that last sentence and break up the last sentence so it's into separate, and then add then a final sentence as
Yeah.
you suggested.
Yeah.
Let's see. So with this, is there a motion then regarding the letter to the comptroller as amended?
So move.
Mr. Ricks moves to send the letter. Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Branson seconds. Further discussion on the letter to the comptroller.
Just one quick question
Mr. Ricks.
on who the letter is from. Is it from the Advisory Commission on Policing, or is it from the Police Advisory?
No, it's from the advisory. These letters are all being sent from the Advisory Commission on Policing, which is the current new name of the entity.
Okay. All right. I just
Sure, of course.
I just wanted to
open
find
my
out
signature
Are we legal? Are we legal or what is?
Yes, that's already, yes, the county executive signed the bill. This is the new name. It was an expedited bill. It took effect upon the county executive signing. Dr. Ekstrand and then Ms. Branson. Dr. Ekstrand?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have lowered my hand. Nope.
No problem. Ms. Branson?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that we suggest a time frame for them. Cause I didn't think we had one.
Well,
That, you know, if,
I don't,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I mean, I guess I don't usually try to sort of create demands of time. You know, it is highly unlikely that a letter, you know, a response would be generated before we're out of office, is my assumption. And it would be then sent back to our successors to address as they see fit. But it would at least give our successors, you know, a foundation to look at this particular issue and to carry on the work regarding traffic enforcement and incentives around that.
And so to that end, I mean, that's why I'm talking about a time frame, because you know, if they're not going to be able to, when are we finished? Like,
We become
I don't
pumpkins
remember.
on January 31st, or when our successors are appointed. And I think probably a fair guess is that our terms will expire before the council will finish the interview process and vote on the nominees.
So, if we're not going to suggest a time frame, can we?
I'm willing to entertain, of course, a time frame. If something.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just want them to have somebody to get back to. That's it. I
Well,
said, I
that's
want to give
true.
them a name, okay? So
Mhm.
so if we can have a direction as to what the name should be, you know, chair of the ACP, you know, care of Susan, you know, that would be, you know, then they would know exactly who to respond to. You know, if it's not your name, then, you know, then they would have someone to respond to. That's my only, you know, that's my worry.
I will include that in the letter. That's a very good
Yeah,
suggestion.
that is a
I'll-
good idea.
Good suggestion. So let's see. The letter has been moved and seconded. I take it that the movements have no problem with these friendly amendments regarding Susan and is there further discussion of the draft letter to the comptroller?
Call the question.
Mr. Ricks?
I was just saying, call the vote.
Oh, I thought you said I had a question. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dr. Gaster, Ms. Delane are okay. I see all those opposed, hands down. All those opposed, all those abstaining. The vote carries 6-0. Thank you. The next letter in this context is a letter that Ms. Branson suggested, which would be.
It appears that Eric Sterling had a question.
I beg your pardon?
It looked like Eric Sterling had a question.
No, I think Susan put my hand up to indicate that I was voting on the response. The next letter in this series is addressed to Jennifer Bryant, the Director of Office of Management and Budget, with a CC to the Honorable Richard Madaleno, Chief Administrative Officer. The subject is regarding state funds distributed to Montgomery County and traffic citation revenue. So the key paragraph then is the state annually provides critically important financial support to local governments. Has any portion of the state's payments to Montgomery County ever been computed using an accounting or formula that considers the revenue the state receives from traffic-related fines generated by enforcement in the county? If so, could you please provide an itemization of the sums from traffic-related fines that have been returned to Montgomery County for the 3 most recent years available? If you're able, the Advisory Commission would greatly appreciate it if you could provide the state's formula used to allocate fine revenue transferred to the counties, and then asking for the sum. And so I would suggest that we then further amend this as Ms. Branson had raised, excuse me, as Dr. Ekstrand had raised regarding if you can't provide that information, why not?
Mhm.
And we would then also ask that the response be directed to the commission care of Susan.
Mhm.
Is there a motion regarding the letter to Jennifer Bryant, Director, Office of Management and Budget?
So move.
And seconded.
Mr. Ricks moves, and it's seconded by Ms. Branson. Is there further discussion of the letter?
Just one note, the county can
Mr. Ricks.
the county can tell you almost down to the dollar how much they get from the liquor board. So, so they ought to be able to tell us something.
The question then occurs on the letter. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ms. Delane, we're waiting for your vote. All those lower hands, all those opposed, raise your hand. All those abstaining, raise your hand. Motion carries 6-0. And the last letter on this series then is addressed to Chief Jones. This was, again, a separate letter that went to sort of the heart of the question, which is the role of traffic enforcement in the evaluation of officers. And so this is how I drafted the letter to Chief Marcus Jones. Dear Chief Jones, as you know, the Advisory Commission on Policing has been working on issues regarding traffic enforcement since its inception. We remain unclear about the role of issuing traffic citations in the evaluation of officers in the Bureau of Patrol Services. Function Code 372C regarding performance evaluation for police employees provides that a goal is to, quote, keep employees informed of what is expected of them and how well they are meeting those expectations, close quote. Is there any document or policy that sets forth any kind of expectation regarding the issuance of traffic citations? Next paragraph. Relatedly, Function Code 303, Department Rule 16B regarding unsatisfactory performance provides that, quote, employees will demonstrate an ability or willingness to perform assigned tasks, take appropriate action in a situation deserving police attention, and conform to work standards established for the employee's rank, grade, or position, close quote. Are there any statements that address traffic enforcement or the issuance of traffic citations in connection with, quote, assigned tasks, comma, quote, situations deserving police attention, close quote, or, quote, work standards for officers in the Bureau of Patrol Services, question mark? We would greatly appreciate being briefed on this subject, and I think I would say at our meeting on January 8th, since we that would be our last meeting, so that we can have this addressed. With that, so I see Dr. Ekstrand.
Okay, can we ask them, what data are collected per officer in relation to, traffic enforcement? Who gets to see that information? And, what correlation is there, between, those numbers for individual officers and any kinds of ratings? So, I mean, now we're getting really much more specific. You know, I mean, even if it's not a specific item in the evaluation of officers, you know, if supervisors are receiving this information, it would be unnatural if they weren't using it in some way, to rank officers. So I would like to put them a little more on the spot about that.
Excellent point. Ms. Branson?
Sorry, yeah, and Lori's questions always make me think. So yeah, so I would agree with that. And I would also want to ask, and I don't know exactly how we would ask this, but I would also want to ask whether this is an issue that has been a part of collective bargaining.
Yeah,
Excellent question.
yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Gaster has his hand up. Can't hear you. Robin, your microphone is not working properly. In the interim, I'll recognize Mr. Ricks, and Robin, you'll be recognized as soon as you get your microphone up. Mr. Ricks?
yeah, my question is, why are we being so specific just to traffic? If, you know, is it, there are other things that the officers, other responsibilities that the officers have on a daily basis?
Sure, that's a good question, Mr. Ricks. And so the reason is that in the context of issuing citations, which has been a controversial matter in which we addressed in our report, and which is the subject of the STEP Act that that Councilmember Jawando has introduced, we're trying to understand specifically what kinds of incentives would exist that might encourage patrol officers to stop people more frequently for the purpose of issuing traffic citations. We're not asking at this point, this is not a general management question about how do you evaluate patrol officers. It's in the context of trying to understand, you know, and support the work that we were doing, trying to understand what's going on in the case of traffic enforcement, where there's the evidence of what appears to be unwarranted racial disproportionality in the making of stops and the issuance of citations, according to all the studies. That's essentially why we're limiting it to that subject. Dr. Gaster, you are sadly muted this evening by.
That's terrible. I mean, we put a axe on him. Use sign language.
You could also call the Zoom phone number using a cell phone and get, and I think you'd be able to participate that way. So do you have?
Sometimes if you go out and then come back in, it'll click on for you, because I've had that happen too.
If you want to sign out, we'll wait for you, Dr. Gaster.
But he put it in the
Oh.
chat.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't use a term ranking officer in this. I mean, these were the I see that he's dropped out. What I did following up on Dr. Ekstrand's question was, as I heard what you said, we're asking what data are collected per officer, who gets to see that information?
Yep.
And what correlation is there between that data and the officer's evaluation? Is that correct?
Yep.
So that, so. And then the question, is this an issue that has been addressed in the context of collective bargaining?
Yeah, I like that too.
So we're at the moment we're waiting for Robin and Cherie to rejoin us. So we're gonna catch our breath for a moment. Okay, Cherie, you're muted.
I'm here.
Good. Okay. Very good. Okay. And we'll give Robin another minute.
Can move the agenda and come back to.
Robin,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you.
It's okay, jolly good. Whoever's idea that was to come back in, I think it was Sherry, is a good one. I had a point that I put in the chat just to say that I just wanted a minor amendment to Laurie's language. She talked about ranking officers, and I think that's actually quite vague.
No. She said what data are collected per officer, if I understood.
Right. For the purpose, and later on she talked about ranking.
Well, she simply said who gets to see that information.
Yeah,
without,
that's fine. Good with that.
Then what correlation what is the correlation between the data and the officer's evaluation?
Oh, I heard ranking. I would say performance evaluation would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good.
That's it. That's all.
Okay, good. With those excellent suggestions, and then finally, Cherie's suggestion, is this an issue that has been addressed in the context of collective bargaining?
Yeah, good question.
I like that.
Okay, so with those revisions, do we have a motion regarding this letter to Chief Jones?
I will. Yes. I'll propose that.
Robin moves, okay.
Yeah.
And the second is from,
I'll second it.
okay, Dr. Gaster and Dr. Ekstrand's second. Further discussion of the letter. Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Robin, you're waiting.
Yeah, sorry, I'm there. Yeah, okay.
So I see 6. Ms. Delane, we're waiting for your vote. All those 6 in favor, all those opposed, raise your hand. All those abstaining. Motion carries 6-0. Very good. Okay, that takes care then of the letters under Roman numeral 7 traffic citation fines, the letter to the comptroller, the letter to county OMB, and the letter to the chief regarding impact on evaluations. The next item is Roman numeral 8, transition letters. Include some measures to ease our transition to a new set of commissioners. These include letters from Chair Dr. Gaster and Dr. Ekstrand. Dr. Ekstrand and I have talked. She wasn't I think, Lori, it's fair to say that you thought that speaking perhaps informally with Captain Satinsky and sort of volunteering might be sufficient rather than sending a letter specifically.
I think I felt like if I was going to volunteer my time to work with them to try to help them in terms of getting the most out of the review of body camera footage, that maybe that would just be outside of the role, any role with the commission, and would probably happen after I'm off the commission. So it seemed perhaps more reasonable to, just contact contact someone in the police department to say, I'd be free help if you want some help to try to get this process to have as much benefit as it can have. So I didn't write a letter.
Okay, would it be, would friends think that perhaps it might be appropriate to say in a letter that we had concerns that as currently operating, we didn't see, we believe that there were problems that perhaps could be addressed by revising aspects of the methodology, and encourage the department to seek guidance a bit.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Would perhaps at least a letter sort of laying the groundwork for Dr. Ekstrand's offer might be appropriate. I see Ms. Branson nodding her head. Dr. Gaster?
I'm just probing a bit with Laurie. I've come to the conclusion that this randomized video search is a total waste of resources, and I think we should just say that and be done with it. They could do better things with their video, perhaps. I mean, I'm sure that having you give them advice on how to manage that program would inevitably be valuable. But honestly, I just cannot see any way around the sort of fundamental problem that this is a ludicrous waste of time and energy for the two sergeants who are doing it. I mean, I just can't get around it. And I think the commission should just tell, it's not a police department problem, it's a council problem. The council insisted on this. It's in the legislation, as far as I understand it, and we should send a letter to the council saying this is a total waste of time and money. They should not be doing this. And coming from us, look, the reason it's being done is to allegedly give the community some increased feeling that there is accountability in the police department. I mean, that's why they're doing this randomized thing. And I just, there's no way that that's of any value whatsoever. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, I'm quite happy to hear that I'm wrong.
So I'll say you're wrong.
One
No,
second,
I can't necessarily say that you're wrong, but I guess I still am holding out hope that they can get something out of this and not waste the time. But, I think that just giving them 2 minutes of advice is not going to get anywhere. I think what they're doing right now probably is of no value. I suspect they're not doing anything systematic about this. I certainly agree that it will only be qualitative information. It would not be able to be generalized in any way because it would be such a small sample. It may be that, if the council is still shouting that they need to review a random sample, it's possible that it could be only one person doing this and not two police officers doing this.
Based on what you just said, shouldn't we write a letter to the council saying, based on the expertise in this commission and our position as representatives of the community, this is unnecessary, and we think they should amend the law?
Well, I'm not sure that unnecessary is the word. I think that, you know,
Useless.
it,
I
it
was
is,
trying to avoid useless.
as it's being conducted right now, it's unlikely to be of significant value to the police department or the community. I'm certainly willing to say that.
Okay, let me recognize Mr. Ricks, who's seeking recognition, and then
Yeah.
Ms. Branson.
I think that random sampling of performance is good. When I was in corporate America, I would every so often pick an individual to bring in and have conversation on what they felt, how they felt the corporation was doing, how they were doing, and it would help to in some cases, a random picked up some things that I felt were troubling, and I was able to turn some things around. So nowadays, customer satisfaction is a big thing, and so I think it's a good move.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Ms. Branson.
Hi, yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get like a midpoint. So, I also agree that that having a couple officers review random body camera footage does not yield the kind of accountability that the community needs or deserves. And it has no value to the police, because the purpose of the review, I hope, is to figure out whether or not there is some sort of systemic issue that may relate back to training, right? That says basically everybody's doing this wrong. This is not what we were teaching people how to do. So, and therefore, without having, individualized mishaps, there can be a focus on systemic stuff that people can do better. Okay. That's what I thought. I mean, when we first talked about, when the council first talked about doing this random body camera examination, that was the lens, no pun intended, through which they were viewing it, that it would yield information that could be used in some other way. Okay. Not with just two guys sitting in a room looking at stuff. That's just not going to happen. So here's the midpoint that I'm suggesting. That we had talked about, and I think this is in the context, this conversation is in the context of what we leave for the next folks, right? And so I think it's fair that if we leave them, some verbiage that says, look, we didn't get to it, but we really think the bill that required random review of body cameras needs another look. And here are the reasons why. And so we leave that with you, that we are seeking that you review this issue and request that the council reconsider it. And then we send, our little list of, this is the stuff we wanted to get done, we didn't have a chance to get done to, also to the council. It's like, some of this stuff is for y'all too, so that's, because on my little list is the body cameras, the implementation of CIT stuff, and the entire area of data collection. To me, those are the big tickets that we needed to get to, but we had a lot to do. So so those would be a good starting place for our replacements. And they're also a place that the council should actually spend some time thinking about. That's my midpoint.
Thank you, Ms. Branson. Thoughts? What we could do, I mean, what it strikes me, is that we do have the question of what we would say in some sense to our successors, perhaps to our successors with a copy to the council, or a letter to the council copied to our successors in some form. In the last letter that we have, Robin, you didn't send us a draft, I'm guessing, on the benchmarking matter.
No, I decided it's too technical. There's no,
Okay,
you can only send so many things.
Okay, so I drafted a letter addressed to President Friedson and the new Vice President Kate Stewart on the subject of use of the Advisory Commission on Policing, and made some comments regarding benchmarking and so on, and data as issues that so this would have been in one of the last letters that I would have sent this afternoon. We don't right now have a motion yet. Let me propose then that we add to our consideration before we decide how we want to resolve this point. This letter that I've addressed to President Friedson and Council Vice President Kate Stewart. So, dear President Friedson and Vice President Stewart, congratulations upon your election to lead the County Council in 2024. The terms of the current members of the Advisory Commission on Policing will expire next month, either upon the appointment of our successors or pursuant to the county code. We thank the County Council for the opportunity to have served the county by providing citizen and expert review of the policies, practices, and procedures of the Montgomery County Police Department. In reviewing the relationship between the County Council and the Advisory Commission over the past 3.5 years, we wish to encourage the Council in its work with the incoming ACP to take greater advantage of the ACP's ability to provide a forum for inviting public comment and analysis on areas to improve the Montgomery County Police Department. The ACP role is unique. It can independently question MCPD practices that concern the public or that have been unexamined. But because it has no disciplinary or regulatory authority, it cannot threaten or interfere with the MCPD. We encourage you to request the opinion of the ACP on matters beyond pending legislation. As our term concludes, we remain concerned that the MCPD still has serious problems in managing its data regarding its activities. Just one example is that after 2 years since it was asked, the MCPD cannot state the actual number of arrests for illegal possession of marijuana its officers make. The number, as reported by the MCPD to the Maryland State Police, has been disputed by MCPD leadership, yet remains an outlier compared to other jurisdictions in Maryland. New paragraph. We are concerned that the MCPD does not have other comparable jurisdictions that it uses to test, by comparison, its performance on the many important programs and activities it carries out against similar departments. Comparisons with the police departments in our neighboring jurisdictions, Fairfax County and Prince George's County are interesting, but insufficient for truly benchmarking the work of the MCPD. And then I conclude, we commend the service of the representatives of the MCPD who have participated in our meetings, especially Captain Jordan Satinsky and Sergeant Catherine Brewer, representing the Fraternal Order of Police, for sharing their very great experience and depth of knowledge about the programs and procedures of the MCPD. And we want to thank Sergeant John Mullaney of the Citizens Academy program for his many courtesies and support of the members of the ACP in familiarizing us with the MCPD. With best wishes, Advisory Commission on Policing. So that attempts to cover, the issues we've addressed minus random review. So how would folks like to proceed? I'm looking for people to seek recognition. I see Mr. Ricks first and then Ms. Ekstrand. Mr. Ricks.
Yes, sir. I'm concerned about that letter. I'm concerned about the fact that they told us in the beginning that they were changing the data systems, and that I thought I heard them say that it would be a year or two before the data got through the ringer and was able to start picking up some sense of the bottom line of the problems. So to me, that would be premature to some time of questioning. The part about the work of the people who were on the commission working with us, I think that's great, but I'm concerned about the questioning of whether they don't have it or that the data is not proper yet, and that they were it may be premature data. Those was my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Dr. Ekstrand and then Ms. Branson.
Okay, so first, in terms of the data, if Mr. Ricks is correct, I don't remember them telling us that they're having new data systems, so it's going to take a while before the data are reliable and valid again. But if that's the case, that's horrendous that it would take that long to make these data systems reliable and valid. So I think I still agree with the idea that we should call them on data issues. And I guess maybe one way to put some to resolve that we do something about review of body camera footage, maybe we can just add another paragraph that says that the commission has some concerns about the value of the current review of body camera footage. We think that it should be reconsidered, that either it should be improved to ensure that that more useful information comes out of the review, or it should be scrapped, so that would get over that issue about body camera footage. Okay. Going back to the first item, it shouldn't take long periods of time like that to get a data set up that's going to be reliable and valid. So if they're still fooling around with that, there are other problems going on.
Ms. Branson.
So I agree with what Dr. Ekstrand said, and as an example, I would like to point out that the state's attorney had similar data collection issues. People were the community was asking for information that they simply could not provide. And in response, the state's attorney was able to get a whole new, computers system thingy that collected different kinds of data. within, within rather short order. And one of the things that was revealed as a result of that, because one of the questions they couldn't answer before, believe it or not, was the percent of arrests by race. And after they got this new system, they were able to tell the community that 65% of the people that they were prosecuting were Black. Okay, so this is not about anything other than will. Okay, whether or not one has the will to do this. And so yes, I think we should really indicate that it is that the residents of this county deserve to be able to access and to know certain information that in no way interferes with police operations. That is the kind of data that we've been requesting. And that is the kind of data that time and time again, we've gotten the shrug, we don't know. That's not okay.
No.
It's really not okay. And, part of the, I give credit to the state's attorney because he really did listen to what the residents were saying. This is the stuff we'd like to know about what you're doing, John McCarthy. And he responded to that. I think Chief Jones needs to hear, needs to really listen and take in. This is the kind of data the community, the residents, the taxpayers would like to know. And saying, oh, we don't have the systems for that. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Computers can do everything just about, and so, and if there's a need for funding for that kind of thing, then that needs to be said, but we don't have it, we can't get it. That's an answer that can no longer be acceptable.
Thank you, Dr. Gaster.
Well, I think I agree with Sherry and I agree with Laurie that the data problems at MCPD are very deeply rooted. I think they're buying a new information system. And as far as I can understand it, this is something that's basically going on entirely inside MCPD and the IT folk in the county. I guess I'm look, to me, the two huge issues for the county for MCPD are, first of all, that they do not have outcome measures that are acceptable. It's not okay to measure your outcomes by the number of people you arrest.
No.
You have to know what happens to them. You have to actually solve the crime in a permanent way. And if you we've had responses, they just throw up their hands. They don't believe that is necessary. So that's item one. And the second one is as Laurie mentioned, and as I think Mr. Ricks would note from his private sector experience, benchmarking is everywhere now. I mean, every department in a large private sector company is being benchmarked ruthlessly against other departments in that company and against equivalent functions elsewhere. For the county, for MCPD to say we do not have a systematic program for benchmarking our activities, it is totally unacceptable. They are putting. We are just left to take their word that they have state-of-the-art activity, that they are the best in the country, which they certainly seem to believe. maybe they are. I don't have any clue. And nor do they. So to me, I would like to see something in the letter that strengthened the benchmarking point that Eric made. I'm not sure that tying it to the marijuana arrest issue is that good an idea, because Mr. Ricks had concerns about that. I know that that is actually an issue, right? They haven't provided the data, but it will be very easy to derail a wide discussion of benchmarking into a narrow discussion of marijuana data. So I would suggest that, I know, Eric, this is an issue close to you, but I just wonder if this is the place to push it. I think the wider we can get the idea of benchmarking into the council and into MCPD, the better it is. And the same is true. I'd like to see something in there about outcomes.
Thank you, Dr. Gaster. Mr. Ricks.
I thought I saw Dr. Estrand's hand before mine, but the only thing I would add is that I'm not saying when we talk about benchmarking, and I thought I heard the conversation not that benchmarking against Prince George's and Fairfax County.
No, others too.
No,
But what I'm seeing is that they have to the benchmarking should be against like jurisdictions.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely,
I
right,
mean,
Mhm.
right.
Totally
I-
agree.
Mr. Ricks, I was not saying that Fairfax and Prince George's were the appropriate benchmarks. I was noting what we hear from what my impression is, that the department says, well, let's look at us compared to Prince George's, or let's look at us compared to Fairfax, because these are large neighboring jurisdictions, but they are
Not a
very
lot.
different in, as you observe, in many ways. Those were not, so I was essentially holding them up as examples of what is not benchmarking. I wasn't holding them up as examples of benchmarks in my letter. I apologize if I read it too quickly, or if my draft was unclear on that point. Dr. Ekstrand.
I just want to endorse what Robin said about them not having outcome measures. They have output measures, not outcome measures. And, it would be true in a lot of different areas. In relation to the traffic study, they didn't seem to be looking at outcomes in terms of reducing accident rates in relation to giving out tickets. But there should be a lot of other assessments of outcomes that they don't seem to be focused on. They need good data to focus on, to measure outputs and outcomes. They don't seem to have the good data. So, the problems in that area seem pretty rampant.
Thank you, Dr. Ekstrand. Mr. Ricks, my recollection is that this question of the data and the data system was something that we raised in some of our earliest meetings back in 2020.
I agree.
And that I don't have a sense now that, 3 years later, 3.5 years later, the department has, addressed this problem in a way that we feel, is satisfactory. And that's what I was in part sort of getting at. I had only raised the marijuana issue simply because here was an outstanding issue. And, after 2 years, they've just simply not gotten back to us. They,
Right. Well,
with the sense that they still if something is as simple as, or simple or complex, whatever it is, here's one question they can't answer, but they report the data to the state, and they say the data we report to the state is wrong. They tell us
well,
the data we reported to the state is wrong. It's not credible. It's off by 90% is what they told us.
and I can agree on that certain things that like, for example, they were talking about oh God, what it was on something, one of the benchmarks, and they were saying that the state is asking, in that a number of jurisdictions in the state are not reporting the same as Montgomery County. For example, hate violence. And that that when you compare what Montgomery County is reporting out, they are way ahead of other organizations. It's some other jurisdictions. And my understanding is that back several years ago, the state was taking some measures that they wanted reported and that they were setting the standard. Now, I might be wrong. I admit that's been years ago. I took my vitamin B12 for my brain, but I don't know that it's always working. But what I'm saying is that I thought that I heard some years ago that they were working on, and that there was not just the county was doing some things to upgrade the data collection system. Now, whether it was going, because I can remember back when data collection in the Montgomery County Police on traffic stops was in a little palm reader. Yeah. And they could put in what data they wanted. And the data collection, like race, was what the individual, the officer said that he thought they were. In other words, am I Black or am I African? Am I what have you? Or am I Hispanic, Black? Mm-hmm. So, you know, those were some things that I thought I heard, that where data was, they were trying to figure out how they could report that kind of data with some accuracy. And that's where I am.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Ms. Branson?
Yeah, so I think maybe here I go again trying to figure out our commonality. Okay, so I think our common ground here is that we would like, we believe that the data collection efforts of Montgomery County Police Department are misaligned with community and with community needs, essentially.
Or expectations.
Yes, that's a good word too. And that there has not been an effort to align the data collected with the kinds of information the community, the residents would like to receive. We do understand that the police department does have to report data to the state and to other governmental entities, but that does not mean that that's all they collect. And so we would like an examination of their data collection efforts, of the outcome measures and benchmarking measures that they're using, that we believe that those efforts would be in sync with what the community needs, as well as what would be revealing for public policy. I think if we sort of left it that sort of, kind of loosey-goosey. Because the goal here is to not only inform the council, but to inform our successors. Okay. And while we're on it, the stuff that, I would also like to ask our successors to look at the CIT and the de-escalation. I think I already said that, but I'm gonna say it again. And I'm gonna add a new thing. And the new thing I would like our successors to take a look at is the role of the police in the charging decision of magistrates. That's huge. And so those are my, our farewell letter to the troops kind of thing. That's my, those are my additional suggestions, excuse me, on those issues.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. But Dr. Ekstrand, before I recognize you, I just wanted to say that that Sheree, I like sort of some things you say, but what strikes me is that in part, and it's not merely that the data is inadequate to meet the expectations of the community. It's not merely for matters of public policy, but I think in part it's our sense that the department isn't able to manage itself adequately. It can't deploy its own personnel. It's not telling itself what it's doing. It doesn't have a clear enough vision of the relationship between its, what it's doing and what the outcomes are. And that is the most disturbing. That if I were the manager, if I were the chief, I'd say, I'm only operating kind of flying, but it's like half my instrument panel is out. And I'm trying to fly the 747 with half the instruments. It's a great 747. It's the world's best, but how much performance are you getting out of it? So these are I think that's part of my concern there. But anyhow, Dr. Strand and then Dr. Gaster, and I'm noting that
No, Mr. Ricks. Mr. Ricks has been waiting.
Okay. And just note the time. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to have to quickly, sort of try to wrap this up. I think what I'm taking these ideas, that everyone has laid out. I think, this letter, was the last for a reason. I think it's going to need some more development. I'm going to try to share before the holiday another draft. But I guess Mr. Ricks and then Dr. Ekstrand.
Okay, and again, I don't want to prolong this, but I guess what I'm hearing, the kind of data that you're looking for is like during the pandemic. Every day we knew how many people died, how many beds were there, how many this, that, everything. Every day there was a report on the pandemic. And where they were dying and what they were giving them, all those kinds of things we had every hour almost. And I don't see that kind of data coming out of the police department, but I may be wrong, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, Dr. Ekstrand.
My only comment was to agree with you that, they can't be efficient and effective in running a department when they don't have the data that will tell them what they're getting, what bang for the buck they're getting out of the work they're doing. So I just endorse what you're saying, that it's not just that we want data to assess the department. They need to be using that data to manage. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, and Dr. Gaster.
I'll be very quick. I guess my concern is that the police department is going to be heavily focused on getting the data that it already gets more effectively, and maybe making some marginal improvements around the edge. And I think that's the wrong idea. I don't think that's going to solve any of our problems. But so I'm concerned about that. And I would suggest, Susan just told me that Kathy Ladana is the Director of Information Management and Technology Division. Now, is that at MCPD? I assume that it is. If so, maybe at our last meeting, we should ask her to come and talk. I don't know, she probably won't come, but we should ask. Why not ask? And then, say we have a number of concerns. She's actually the person we might want to be directing a letter at.
So if I interpret what you're saying, it's a motion that we invite Kathy Ladonna, if that's her name, or this person
Yeah,
to
that's right. It's in the
brief
chat.
brief
Oh,
us
no, it's me.
on the current status of data at our next meeting.
Yes, why
Is
not?
there a second to Dr. Gaster's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the request that we be briefed on this by the head of the technology? All those in favor, raise your hand. I see everybody's hand, but Ms. Branson, Ms. Delane. All those opposed. I see no opposition. Any abstentions? The motion carries 5-0. Okay. Susan will take care of such an invitation. Very good. Friends, thank you. The one piece of sort of new business we did not address, perhaps we'll have time next time, is Bill 4323. It's a bill that's been introduced by Councilmember Lutke, dealing with CIT and the sort of questions of whether or not there should always be police accompany to certain calls or not. I haven't seen all the details, but that's another potential issue. I know that there's been concerns raised by the folks at the Silver Spring Justice Coalition regarding this bill. I asked Jen Lynn, if she had a chance, and she very quickly said some thoughts that she thought the bill made sense, but I wanted to bring this up as one more sort of piece of legislation that is pending that we might have a chance to try to take a look at before our last meeting, and maybe we can put that on our agenda. Bill 4323. We'll be sending you more information.
Eric, I know I don't want to extend the meeting too much, but I do have a grave concern that I would like to get some feedback on before the 18th of December.
Okay, and what is that?
And that is, I've seen, it appears that everybody is leaving the commission. I mean, I don't know whether they are officially leaving or what have you, but there's so much expertise on the commission that I hate to see the commission go away. I think the other part of it is that the process to me is too cumbersome for the amount of expertise that have and the people on the commission. And I'm saying that to the fact that why should they have to go and turn in a resume and all of this? The resume, if one wants to continue on the commission, then they should just be able to say they wish to continue on the commission. And if they're not accepted, they're not accepted. But it is, to me, going through and doing all that after 3 years of volunteering my time and everything is, and who's left? Who's left to carry on? So those are my concerns. So
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Those are important concerns. Ms. Daphnis and then Ms. Branson.
I will say, I am okay with resubmitting a resume and everything, but to have to go through another interview, which before the council, which is gonna take time. You know, I'm gonna have to take annual leave to go
Right.
to the council chamber and all that kind of stuff. It seems to me like a little
And,
over
and,
the
and,
top.
and that's a part of it. I mean, all the things above, I mean, why put those who are willing to continue through all this mess?
Uh-huh. Thank you, Ms. Branson.
Yeah, well, you know, I think this whole reapplication process is in line with what the council's been doing in the name of transparency. I think this is the sort of downside of it. Not everybody wants to have a job interview that is you know, viewed by several thousand people. You know, that can be kind of intimidating for people who may be interested in serving. But, you know, that's their thing. That's what they figured out. And, you know, I don't know if there are similar outcomes for other boards and commissions, whether, you know, other people, you know, just have been bowing out. And therefore the pool is reduced because people might not want to undergo what they regard as a public grilling, if you will. But that's, you know, that's where the council came out. I mean, these interviews were always conducted with a number of council members, but they weren't always televised. You know, I've been on, you know, a number of boards and commissions, but like I said, that's, you know, that's their little red wagon. That's the way they decide to pull it.
Well,
And this could
Sheree,
be a problem.
Sheree,
Wait a minute, let
yeah.
me finish because I want to get this in. Okay, so and I'll be honest with you, I have not decided whether or not I will, you know, reapply or not. I genuinely have not, because my plate is pretty full, but I'm very concerned about the you know, I believe in the importance of institutional memory, and I am really deeply concerned about about a whole new crew coming on, because what that means is that the institutional memory will not be there from the perspective of the community, and that deeply bothers me. But I'm not sure that's, you know, that's the shield I need to run up the hill with.
Yeah.
But let me
But it was this group, this core group, who really rewrote what this thing should be out of the mess that the council had in the beginning. And to me, that's this, I mean, the core group put it together. What is the future? And the council, I mean, they just throwing it out the window, like you say, that I'm prolonging it.
I just think that this whole notion of transparency and how it's being interpreted is not necessarily been the effect that it may have on an individual's willingness to serve has not really been considered, especially when it's something like this that is A, high profile, B, likely to be controversial, and C, not paid. You know, so
Absolutely. I've been saying that for the whole time.
you know, so you know, that is something that, you know, I mean, because, you know, a lot of the boards and commissions, they're not high profile. I mean, you know, I'm not going to call it any names, but a lot of the boards and commissions are not high profile. a few of them, you know, you get paid, and so you're willing to, you know, take the slings and arrows, you know, but then, you know, there are very few groups like this that are high profile, potentially controversial, and unpaid. And then on top of that, you ask people, oh, and come set for a public grilling. You know, it's like, dude, I got other things to do. So that is probably but that's their little red wagon. Like I said, they can push and pull it any way they want. But anyway, they'll figure it out. They're bright young people. They'll figure it out. But I want to put this on the agenda for January the 8th, because I think it sounded like we were going to have Chief Jones. Is that correct, Eric? You were talking about having Chief Jones on January the 8th?
No, I wasn't sure. Oh, you mean, let's see. So let's see, the briefing, we were going to be briefed on,
The data lady, wasn't
the
it?
data, and then there was another, you're right, there was I don't think it was Chief Jones. I'm trying to remember. It was, well, yes, right. I don't know. It was going to be on the question of traffic citations and evaluation. I guess I was not expecting that the chief himself was coming. We were directing our request to him. I think that's and maybe Susan could correct me if there's somebody else we should
I
ask.
think we should ask Chief Jones, because quite frankly, that's going to be our little swan song. And so I think it would be appropriate. And if he don't want to come, want to send somebody else, is up to him. But if in fact we do have Chief Jones, I don't know if you all saw the article in the New York Times. I think it was within the last week. Found incredibly disturbing about gun disposal, and how you know, all these local jurisdictions are doing these gun buybacks and trying to and it turns out that a lot of these gun buybacks are actually putting guns back on the streets. And so if we are going to have Chief Jones, and I think we should, I think it would be good to ask him about the county's gun disposal, and how we assure that guns that may be confiscated in whatever way they are not getting back on the street.
Before I recognize Dr. Gaster, what I'm going to ask is unanimous consent that I send a discrete letter on the question of the county's gun disposal, asking, you know, for a reply, noting the news account that you referenced, just as a sort of a separate kind of matter. You know, I know that we're keeping county staff now after their appointed hour, and we need to be respectful of you know, of their long day. Robin, this is, I think,
10 seconds, no more. 10 seconds. I strongly oppose inviting Chief Jones. I found his last appearance here to be a waste of our time and his, and I think he should be out there working on his stuff. I don't at all think it's a good idea for him to come. I'd much rather talk to Kathy Ladonna.
Well, okie dokie then. But can we do the gun disposal thing?
That was quick.
That was quick. I want to thank our staff, thank everyone. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Robin moves, Mr. Rick second. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Yes.
Okay.
So a majority, a motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good holiday, a good New Year. I'll be in touch with all of you soon to follow up on some of this correspondence. Thank you again.
Thanks, Eric.
Susan,
And
Logan,
change
thank
your mind, and change your minds about leaving the commission.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.